Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UMG Online $200 minimum 4v4 variant taking place here on March 29th. Gotta obviously hype up what is a very interesting and should be a very awesome semifinal matchup. We've got Mazer Gaming taking on the side of VexX Gaming for what is a rematch from just a week ago. It was the side of VexX Gaming who ended up taking this particular series versus Mazer in our March 22nd $200 minimum. I believe that was the semifinals or something along those lines. It was one of the earlier matches, actually. Might have been a quarterfinal matchup. Regardless, though, that was one of the more difficult victories that VexX ended up taking, which allowed them to complete the three-peat in our Thursday night tournament. So for this evening, it's VexX who are looking kind of at the other competition saying, come on, guys, let's get something to go against us because we've won literally 3 tournaments in a row. Give us some competition. And Mazer is the one to answer the call. Could quite literally be the finals for tonight's tournament. Of course, we do find it in the semis, but both these teams can definitely go back and forth when it comes down to multiple game modes. Obviously, been able to cast over VexX majority of the time. And one thing that's scary about the side of VexX, right, because they've added kind of pieces toward their roster as time has kind of gone on. Of course, it looked a lot different as of recently, adding guys like Hitmxn and most recently JetLi to the lineup, winning their last tournament actually with JetLi on board. But one thing that's really interesting about this team, right, is that they can win multiple game modes, and they can be dominant at multiple game modes as well. Usually you'd assume them to kind of be more of a hard-pointed CTF type of team. You add a guy like JetLi onto the roster for Rampy, kind of add in the same overall consistency when it comes down to a search and destroy player. But this team lost a hardpoint versus Mazer last time, but they win the S&D, and they nearly won a CTF in overtime, actually on this exact map of London Dock. So expecting to see a very close match, but one thing that is about VexX is that you can't count them out of any game mode, whether it's hardpoint, whether it's search and destroy, or whether it's CTF. Especially CTF, these guys can absolutely go on a tear. And when you discuss and talk about search and destroy, generally you have to bring up the factor that is going to be Zaptius, Fatal, Frosty, and Gizmo. I mean, I've heard of all these guys winning and dominating search and destroy tournaments. Of course, all these guys have been kind of surrounding the S&D community for a while. And you've got a duo in Zaptius and Frosty who are very talented players in this game mode specifically, who I think can definitely add toward their overall performance of a roster in that game mode, like I said. But Zaptius having a very slow start, 0-9, about to make it 0-10 off the break of this game, only 2 seconds inside of the hill. Kind of a walking free kill streak, essentially, is kind of what he's being allowed to be, as Fatal actually falls off the map. JetLi finding 2 kills, and just like that, VexX Gaming are walking away with Doc's Warehouse unscathed. And the one thing that is so beneficial about Doc's Warehouse is that quick rotation that you can make just through that last half of Waterside through stairs, you're already in the next hardpoint. You already possess the spawns. You're in a fantastic position to already rotate toward the next hardpoint, which is going to be inside a barrel building. So very close to reaching that century mark as Fatal tries to hop inside of the hill. Zaptius and Frosty able to add a few in, and Zaptius, though, 1-12. Granted, does at least find 1 kill to his name, but definitely struggling to say the least, as just really trying to find anyone that he possibly can. I gotta say, it's pretty surprising that we actually see the guys from Mazer holding this one as close as they are, with having a player who is -11 at the moment, especially at the beginning of the game, which is pretty noticeable to bring up. But trying to pick things up, as I say, up like 5 times in a row there. Zaptius trying to do his best. It looks like it will be Vicious, though, finding a few kills in the ending result. Taking a look at the kind of top performers right now. Hitmxn, 13-5. JetLi, 14-8. This is pretty much kind of standard play when it comes to the Hitmxn. This guy can absolutely go off in a number of different respawns. And when you talk about JetLi, at least from what I have been able to notice, JetLi is more of a guy who can kind of perform at times in the respawns, but usually is a guy to be looking out for when it comes down to search and destroys. Vicious, though, when it came down to their tournament last week, he was an all-star performer. He was going off in the hard points. He single-handedly won them the search and destroy versus Mazer, actually, on St. Marie du Mont by going absolutely bonkers. He was going absolutely off, literally was playing incredibly well, and can have all-star performances in search and destroy as well as the respawns as well. I mean, really, when you talk about the VexX team, it is layers and layers of guys who can go off in multiple game modes and overall have a very strong presence when it comes down to the map. But despite the artillery barrage that gets brought up from Hitmxn on toward that back hardpoint, it looks like it's not really going to affect the boys from Mazer too much. Still being able to grab some seconds from time to time, but this Ducks Crane starts to come to a close. Without question, it's fair to say a pretty big differential when it comes into the scoreline. Kind of a doubled overall as far as points is considered toward the side of Vex. Thankfully, Zaptius is starting to pick it up. Granted, is still around or very close to the double negative margin, but a 1-10 start, or 1-11 start, really. Definitely something to kind of keep in mind. Trying to bring it back, trying to get it shot warm, because clearly it is not after that last series. Coming forward, though, the statue will load up. Can definitely be kind of as forward to go down here actually quickly for the side of Vex. Kind of be a spotty hard point. You're going to be seeing a lot of contests kind of going back and forth, especially when you talk about a map like London Docks. Very high intensity, very fast gameplay, a lot of communication that's going to be involved as well. So both teams kind of have to be on their A game. And both squads, like I said, are incredibly talented. When we talk about Mazer Gaming, kind of have maybe a little bit more chemistry with one another when you talk about the additions that they have on this lineup. Having pretty solid performances at Seawell, Atlanta, as well as Zaptius on a 6 spree right now. We talked about, like I said, just a second ago, I was talking about how he's double negative. Can he bring it back? A 1-11 start. He's got streaks, and he's about to become even. Pretty insane stuff. And look at the scoreboard in total, right? Starting to totally turn the tide is what happens when Zaptius starts to go off. 7 spree, nearly about to make it an 8 spree if JetLi happens to get the bitter end of this engagement, and he will do exactly that. 8 kills in a row for Zaptius. He's back to even, and he is firing on all cylinders, quite literally, as he's bringing his team back into this map here on London Docks. It looked to be very bitter. It looked to be almost not improbable, but looked to be a very dominant beginning from Vex, that if they can just kind of dot their I's and cross their T's, they can absolutely win this first game pretty much single-handedly. But it's getting closer and closer, as it will be the boys from Mazer who take the lead, but JetLi responding inside of fire. Here comes the streaks from Zaptius. It looks like it will grant the feat of Brack, dropping him and making it look easy. Speaking of some guys to be looking out for when it comes down to either team, really as far as kind of all-star performances, be looking out for Gizmo, especially in the search and destroys, obviously having a pretty decent performance in the hard point. But to Zaptius, man, going on some streaks again. 9 kills in a row. He is just on a tear. Ends up falling. Gizmo's going to be here for the pickup, it looks like, and the assistance in the end will go the way of Frostyyy. As the team fight concludes, it will be toward the side of Mazer in their corner. Coming up, 2-kill differential, and Frostyyy just happens to get the laser on side of JetLi. Nearly got the headshot in that, and has earned some streaks for his squad as well. 10 seconds separate both of these teams, and now it's a flip-flop from what we saw in the first half. It was the guys from Vex who were holding down this hard point and had rotations built up. But take a look at this. Gizmo, off of earning some streaks as well, calls in the fighter pilot, now has spawns for his team, and they put an artillery barrage in the middle of the map. This is going to cause absolute chaos toward the side of Vex. What this does is this kind of separates their overall push, and to kind of separating them to 2 players rotating toward either side of the map. It's a free, 10 to 15 seconds that they get based off of that strategy. And it's beautifully played. And now you see 35 seconds, about to be 40 seconds in favor of Mazer, as they have broken open this game. And it's really all been off the back of everyone starting to play back into form. Zaptius is now back to +3, which is insane to say after a 1-11 start to this map. You don't see that happen very often. I mean, guys can kind of maybe bring it back to, maybe double negative or something on those lines, but talk about a turnaround, man. Absolutely unbelievable. Coming in from Zaptius as JetLi nearly puts him on a poster, essentially, but isn't able to find it in the end. Brack struggling in the back of the map, but thankfully is able to drop at least 1 before he ends up being wiped off the map and revisiting that quick respawn screen. But Zaptius coming from the skies finds 2 with the fighter pilot. Beautiful usage of that streak. A lot of teams can kind of be hindered or even talked about and saying like the streak usage just isn't very good. A lot of search and destroy guys can kind of be tailored to that as well, just not using their streaks to the best of their abilities, especially in respawns. But a great usage out of that to kind of eliminate the players inside of Docks Crane. You have the spawns in your favor. When you talk about this particular hill. I mean, it's a perfect straight line. And speaking of that, here comes yet again another fighter pilot, this time from the man Frostyyy. Takes down Hitman, and just like that, 25 seconds left as he shuts down VexX as well. Frostyyy and co. beginning to ice the side of Mazer, or excuse me, of the side of Vex from long distance shots as well coming through, and this one should be in the bag. If you're on the side of Mazer, can you put the guys on Vex and back-to-back tournaments down 0-1 after the hard point? Question to be asking, 10 seconds left, and can anything be brought up here from Vex? Contestant hardpoint, and JetLi gets silenced. Gizmo finds the trade there onto Hitman. Brack falls as well, and not a whole lot to hold on. If you are a fan of Vex right now, keeping in mind the Search and Destroy, which will be on Arden Forest, a very interesting map as well. None of the maps actually are replicated from last tournament, so I'm not seeing any maps be replayed, which can be a positive and or a negative, whatever team you're, of course, a fan of. But take a look at this, though. Not a whole lot of differential when it comes down to that score, but a full four-man rush on towards Statue. They want to win this game here and now, and they will be granted exactly that. 250 to 210. Mazer takes map number 1, and we've got to bring it up. A 1-11 start. 1-12 start, actually, for Zaptius. I wrote down in my notes. 1-12 to start off this game. Now let's look at the score. Let's take a look at this scoreboard real quick. 1-12 start ends out at 29-25. What a performance coming in from Zaptius, him and GloFrostyyy. Known for their S&D gameplay, definitely brought it. Overall consistency when it comes down to the side of Mazer. And you take a look at the guys from Vex as well. JetLi has a great performance, 35-32. Hitman finishes off even at 29-29. We see Brack and VexX definitely struggling, 19-25. Brack -10 at 16-26. Definitely not characteristic when it comes down to those two. Looking to see what they can do when it comes down to the Search and Destroy. But of course, keeping on track with the hard points. Going to take a look here quickly at our box score to see exactly how the hard points kind of indicated themselves, at least as far as Statue is considered. Pretty much expected. You see 66 to 56, 10-second differential. Not at all really too much to take from that. Main Street, though, definitely dominated from the guys on Mazer. Of course, the top logo, Vex the bottom. 63 to 39 in favor of Mazer. Definitely something to bring up. We talk about Warehouse, 66 to 30. So kind of a turnaround, kind of evens things out essentially when you talk about Main Street compared to Warehouse. Main Street in favor of Mazer and Warehouse in favor of Vex. Look at barrel building, though, kind of even there as well. 53 to 43 in favor of Mazer yet again. And take a look at Crane, 38 to just 6 seconds. Vex, the only time that they managed to get, and we were talking about kind of throughout this map, the ability and the great streak usage that was coming in toward the second set of rotations and even to the beginning of the first set of rotations when it came down to the fighter pilots that were coming through from whether it was Zaptius or whether it was GloFrostyyy. Their kind of smart streak usage from that fighter pilots coming through that mid-streak kind of waterside area were phenomenal. They knew exactly what was going on. They were consistently holding those spawns, but like I said, we talk about most hills kind of even things out, but it's all about the Crane. What was it, like a 32-second difference? And that's not too far off from what the overall score total was there as well. Of course, it is guys from Mazer Gaming who do take map number 1, but if you are on the side of Vex, maybe if you're on the side of Mazer as well, should you feel positive? Should you feel negative? You know, there's a lot of emotions to be feeling right now, but this is exactly the same situation that we saw in last week's tournament as well. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UMG Online $200 minimum 4v4 variant. Of course, take place here on March 29th. Almost said 22nd. That's actually a kind of getting back to my flashbacks of course, when these last two teams faced off against one another, which was in our last tournament. And looking on here, as Mazer Gaming find themselves in the driver's seat, looking to try to propel themselves to knocking off the guys from Vex. If you guys know anything about our prior tournaments, you've been seeing Vex be brought up quite a bit as they've won our last 3 Thursday night tournaments in a row, stretching back to even maybe close to February at this point, but looking on. Mazer Gaming, like I said, with that advantage, and also with the advantage in this round 3 versus 2. It looks like as Fatal does take down Vicious, it's now going to leave Brack in a 1v3 scenario. Nice shot there onto Fatal, but Bomb going to be in a pretty awkward spot, of course, just toward that outside U position, which is exactly where Gizmo and Zaptius are lingering. And right now, if you're Brack, I mean, any of these shots that you connect, if you even take out just one more player, trying to get your shot back on, trying to get that shot warm, essentially, would be crucial. Especially on Arden Forest. No, but just kidding. Just generally when it comes down to this series. Had a slow game on London Docks. Hard points. I think he finished like 16 and 26. He and Vicious definitely did not have the strongest of performances, but Brack does find one onto Zaptius. Despite finding that kill, it will be a round regardless toward the side of Mazer, just as long as Gizmo can stay alive, which is exactly what is going to take place. But still, had a pretty good showing toward the latter parts of that round. Imagine if that bomb was maybe in a different spot, not in much more of an awkward scenario there. Could have maybe pulled something off, but the smokes, the strategies off the start through the side of the mid-map was countered coming in for Mazer. That's just overall solid play coming in for Mazer, realizing what is the preferred plays on offense, maybe even knowing their opponent and Vex what they like to do. But notice these smokes that are be lingering through mid-map, wanting to try to push off that position coming for Vicious, but Vicious is actually rushing through this. Yes, he's going to go and try to make a push in through the enemy's side tank, as it looks like 2 kills go their way. If Vicious would have found that, it would be a 1v3, but looking on, Zaptius quickly all by his lonesome. And Brack will be there to finish him off. So both teams responding well when it comes down to defense, and both teams not being very worried about that smoke. I mean, generally when it comes down to, like I said, the strategies on offense for these teams, for teams in general, it's a matter of either kind of late rotating or late pushing in the back of the map toward B, or it's tossing on a smoke and choosing whichever bomb set you want to go to, whether it's through mid-street or whether it's through forest side. Smokes can be very influential, and for both teams on defense, they've not really been too worried about that. And speaking of not being worried about much, Brack, 4-0 start, not far away from streaks by any means. He's definitely feeling himself now. As the smoke does get brought out. I love this play coming from Brack. He knows that position is very influential, kind of side peeks that, kind of fades away, and now they have a full 4-man rush in toward Cabin. Just as I say that, though, JetLi does get the bitter end in that scenario, does end up falling, and right after Fatal, if you can challenge this, get around this corner, you could deny Brack an even closer moment toward his streaks. Needing to set up right now, has to have Hitman go big, and he does exactly that. Brack gets pretty much annihilated off of that rock. And now what was the overall planned strategy in this round, it's kind of lost. I mean, of course, a round victory would be nice, but they were really looking for Brack to earn those streaks. He ends up dropping, and now with GloFrostyyy picking off one, if he can go for the rush, or maybe even try to go for the sneak defuse, what is Hitman thinking? What could be going on right now? He needs to stay alive, and Hitman will find the shots. That's a big moment. When you're talking about Vex in this scenario, you lose Brack, you're thinking, okay, well, we kind of not wasted essentially, but we could have given that bomb to anyone else or something along those lines. But Hitman is there to answer the call and kind of is responding to where exactly Brack left off. Not far off from streaks is Hitman. 5-1 for him. 125 points away from just a fighter pilot. And we're loading in here for round number 4. 2-1 advantage for Vex. Zaptius and co. making the rush toward B here from Mazer. As it looks like 3 players focused toward that back room and statue side. As it looks like shots being exchanged. Zaptius convinced that someone's up toward top B down, but it's not the case whatsoever. Up close and personal shots. Zaptius definitely feeling a lot better after that comeback on hardpoint that he was able to make in his overall score total. Brack yet again in a 1 versus 3 scenario, as this is just going to be very frustrating from him, and at least from his perspective. It looks like he should be able to take out one through mid-map. It was a lot more difficult than it seemed to implicate, but does drop Fatal for his troubles. And with 24 seconds left, you got to imagine the guys from Maze are not going to make this easy. And yes, just like that, 2-2. And we are even heading in here toward round number 5. And nice shots, like I said, coming in there from Zaptius. Definitely curious to see what teams, or what these two teams are preferring to do when it comes down to future offensive rounds. We've been kind of targeting on that quite a bit. As it looks like a smoke in the back pocket for Brack, and that should be, yeah, that's going to be about it there. So could be tossing that smoke through mid yet again, and it looks like it will be the case. So Zaptius' vision is blocked for the moment, but actually still has an angle. You see Zaptius ends up dropping in that scenario, but it looks like GloFrostyyy, despite that, does get the nice nade onto JetLi. So maybe the aggression not paying off in that spot. And what really that smoke is trying to accomplish is to try to eliminate that vision through mid-map, because generally when you're looking through mid-map, you get an idea as to where the bomb is rotating toward. And so once they have that information, they can kind of focus their defensive strats from there on. But speaking of strats, it looks like Fatal could be on the flank. Unfortunately for him, though, he does lose both of his teammates, so that push is rendered useless. And that's just overall kind of, I want to say, like, maybe good intuition coming in from Vicious to realize that someone's probably on the flank. They're kind of maybe making this rush a little bit too apparent toward us, toward the front. Someone's got to be at the bitter end or the latter part of that push. So just overall good play coming in from Vicious and co. From the set of X, as they are hanging on for the time. A one-round advantage is back and forth we go. Both teams doing well when it comes down to defense, preferably, but of course Vex able to escape in that last round. Looks like bomb not going to be grabbed, so Gizmo just kind of hanging out. And you see, it looks like Fatal is going to be sitting back here. So, granted, I'm not sure if we're going to see too much of a rush get made from Brack and/or Vicious. They might be making their pushes through mid-map, if anything, but not going to be worried about that flank. Gizmo ends up following, so bomb is down, and I believe that if you're in probably Hitman's position, you got to know that the bomb is positioned there. So you know that a push toward A is not possible. Of course, if he did spot that, so that's a lot of information that you have at your side. If you do know the bomb is down, they've yet to pick it up, but it looks like Brack is aware that someone is inside a forest and will just absolutely eliminate them in seconds. GloFrostyyy, 1v4, a sniper rifle in hand, and not anything to find, as 4 rounds to 2, the biggest lead so far in this S&D game. And Vex desperately trying to force this map 3 CTF, man. Like I said, they are killers in multiple game modes. It's not just one. They don't just dominate the respawn. They don't just dominate and search and destroy. They are good at just about everything. You cannot play them slow in any game mode, or they're going to make you pay for it. Back on with the offensive team. It looks like we're going to be seeing the kind of first solidified push toward A, at least through Forest side this time. Actually, no, we did see one a little bit earlier that actually came from Brack when he was close to streak, so apologies for that. But still, making his way forward. It looks like a little bit of contention coming through from Zaptius and Fatal inside of Fire. Not able to find anything through that, but a 4v3 advantage as the retake looking to be made, trying to fire through that cavern inside. The walls may be weak, but no one is lingering behind them. Looks like Frosty, though, despite that, will drop Hitman. Vicious, 1v3, feeling the pressure, does shut down one. See the fast reaction time along and mixed with the high sensitivity. That's not going to stop Frosty from going to the bomb. Can Vicious challenge this one in the nick of time? But no, not going to be here. The kill will come in along with it. And props to the guys on Mazer for realizing the situation at hand. They're able to kind of keep Vicious out of the bomb site. And if you're in Vicious's perspective in that scenario, right? 1v3, you're kind of inside of cabin. Got to make the rush, try to take out someone, but unfortunately he does receive some shots. He's weak, so he can't really do a whole lot rather than just try to stay alive for as long as he could. So not a bad strategy by any means, but definitely an awkward scenario to be in. As yet again, Vicious receiving the smoke, and I love that play actually that comes in from Vex. You see them intentionally toss that smoke to kind of eliminate one half of that line sight. So Vicious is saying, okay, well, one half's blocked. Might as well go ahead and check the other area, as JetLi just totally destroys this round. So that strategy basically means nothing. But it was just overall a good smoke that gets tossed out in the long run. But JetLi is here to say strategies are nice, but it's all about the kills and how you can attach yourself to those strategies. But JetLi, I believe that was a hat trick in that round number 8. And speaking of 8s, it looks like we've got Hitman, Brack, and JetLi all with that amount of kills. I mean, like I said, we talk about consistency, man. one thing that the guys from VexX have added to this roster over time, right? Kind of losing Lyric from this team, losing Rampy from this team as well. They've added kind of overall consistent players. Hitman was a very consistent player when it came down to Rain. JetLi was as well, especially in the search and destroys. He would often kind of times at different scenarios would go off for the squad when they really needed him to. But they have added consistency to this roster, and it is definitely showing in multiple game modes. And they're the reason why they're one of my favorite kind of top semi-pro teams to watch in the world right now. As currently GloFrostyyy and Gizmo find themselves in a 2 versus 2 just to try and see a round number 10. And they can find that round number 10. I mean, hey, things are starting to look a little bit better for them to maybe close out this series in a 2-0. Bomb gets planted. Indicator now known for Frosty and Gizmo. What's the point of attack? What's the rush being made? It looks like the fire pilot is actually going to come through here from JetLi. He's able to drop one, and Gizmo. Position is going to be known, has armored on. So they're going to know what angle he's coming from. Of course, not rocking mountain streaks. Now to spot you there, and it looks like the glide bomb will be only an exclamation point. And cherry on top at that, as it will be the guys from VexX who close out the search and destroy. 6 rounds to 3 here on Arden Forest. And also level this one up at 1-1. Interesting stuff, ladies and gentlemen, to say the least. Honestly, this is one of my most hyped up series coming in for tonight. I was hoping that we would see a kind of rematch come through yet again. But it looks like we will be granted that. And actually, funny enough, I think if my mind serves me correct, we actually saw a 6-3 victory in last week's Search and Destroy. Both these teams matched up. It was on a different map. I think that was on St. Marie-du-Mont, where they ended up playing. But yet again, another 6-3 scoreline. This time, though, different week, different map, same teams, though, this time on Arden Forest. And, of course, speaking of that, we can obviously see how the Search and Destroy rounds did go about, as we do see Major, of course, only escape with 3 rounds, really, winning round 1, round 4, and round 7. Whether it was based off the time limit being reached, kills being found, or the bomb being defused, they won it in a number of different ways. When it came down to VexX's overall kind of scoreline, they were winning them just based off of just overall kills. And you can kind of notice as well, right? 2 rounds kind of back-to-back, winning those off of maybe offense and defense, kind of catching the momentum from prior rounds and whatnot can definitely be the case. But one thing that I really kind of noticed throughout that Search and Destroy game was the ability for the smokes that were tossed out a lot throughout Arden Forest, right? Because we talk about the offensive strategy, smokes are very influential. Both teams kind of realizing throughout the game that, hey, if we toss that smoke toward the half or 1/2 of tank, a lot of times teams might expect that to maybe be just a miss smoke or a miss toss. When in reality, though, it's actually used as a tool to maybe try to make the enemy present themselves, because you know exactly where they're not going to be challenging from. So there were moments where, Vicious was kind of cut off. I think it was Zaptius or Fatal who was sitting through mid-map for the side of Mazer. You have one guy who obviously realizes, okay, I can't check through this one point of view. I have to kind of check through here. Once that guy kind of checks out the opposite side from the smoke, he's greeted with some shots from the enemy team who's obviously making their way through middle. So both teams definitely kind of aware of such. Did a great job when it came down to the Search and Destroy game. But like I said, it is VexX who do walk away with a map victory here, 6 rounds to 3. I believe we're going to be loading in here from more Arden Forest. We're not escaping it. We're actually heading into it yet again, as a CTF will be up next. Of course, winner will progress themselves in the brackets. We can actually take a quick look at that very, very fast to see who they're going to be matching up against. And it looks like it will be Hydra. So, of course, going to be able to watch Hydra play yet again, as they actually played earlier on in tonight's tournament, which of course is Neon, Kismet, Zinx, and Rain. Recently adding Neon to their squad in place of Neode, funny enough, where they actually got to face off against their prior teammate who was actually playing under JFFS in their round 1 matchup. Of course, find themselves to face off against Orgless and also take down Mortal Kings, who we got to watch there as well in our, what was that, semifinal or quarterfinal matchup, excuse me. So definitely a pretty solid team in Mortal Kings, but Hydra are waiting, probably watching this match, of course, live here on stream to see who they're going to be facing off against. And along with them, guys, put your predictions in the chat below. Tweet at us on Twitter. Of course, at UMG Events, at myself as well, at Lando. What way do you think this match is going to go, whether it will be in favor of Mazer or whether it will be in favor of VexX? It looks like off the start, early aggression being shown from the side of VexX, and Hitman is not silencing himself whatsoever, making his presence be felt through the mid-map despite not having a whole lot of teammate support. And, of course, apologies for the Concaster glitch there sometimes. And from time to time, the Concaster just wants us to see the dead bodies that kind of lie on the ground. So if that does happen, sometimes it can be me, but I promise it's usually going to be the Concaster. Lennon by no means is a good driver in Call of Duty. I'm glad that those are now a thing. But, yeah, guys, apologies for that. Still looking on, though. It looks like it will be the boys from VexX still getting that map control, setting the tone early here. As it looks like they do have some stuns in their back pocket. Here from Brack just to try to maybe catch the enemy off guard and try to maybe eliminate them from their setups. I definitely think when it comes down to CTF, I think the best tactical / lethal that you could probably have is most likely a stun, just the ability to silence someone who's on a setup, or the ability to kind of maybe slow someone down who either has the flag or is trying to stop your flag carrier. This overall has a number of different uses as Brack just eliminates Gizmo. Don't know how in the world he managed to get that shot, but it's just his highlighted STG-44, which I always got to comment about. It's just on a different level from time to time. Knows exactly where Zaptius' corner was, but has to go for a different challenge. Holding down that forward side basically by himself for the longest time, which is going to make the boys from Mazer not realize that, hey, this entire side of Ruins is open. Granted, JetLi only managed to hop on that flag for a moment, but a lot of presence being felt here from the AR players of VexX early on. Of course, it will be Vicious now taking over that control of Forest side, but I like what we're seeing right now coming in from VexX. You notice 2 players are right on either lanes of the map holding down, so they know exactly where the enemy's going to be coming from, whether it's through this kind of mid-cabin cut area or through Forest side. They have both positions locked down, but the one thing they don't have locked down is Ruins, which is where 2 players are coming from. Fatal, after having his teammate Gizmo pick up a kill, has now progressed himself inside of fire, but generally not a whole lot gets accomplished. Half the lobby gets dropped, and now after 3 minutes of play, we sit at the 2-minute warning mark here for round number 1. Of course, for those who are new to CTF, we do play 2 halves of 5 minutes. If one team has the flag either out or in their hands, once the time does expire, we do give them a minute of grace time until the flag is either scored or dropped, or actually scored or returned, rather. And we also have overtime, whether teams are tied or scoreless at the end of overall 10 minutes, where we go to a stopwatch to see who can get the overall advantage, and whether or what time that they have, the opposite team has the same amount of time and or less to try to score it. And there's more rules to it, but I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. If we do see overtime, I'll explain it more in depth. That's really all of the details that you need to know. But for now, Hitman and Co. have grabbed the flag, and they should be good to get this early score in. I say early. It's been about 4 minutes of play. When it comes to Arden Forest, that is pretty much a typical score line for the most part. As not your typical Flak Tower and or London Docks score totals, but looks like 3 players dropped from VexX, and Brack is the last man alive here, just inside of bunker, having players enter in from multiple point of views as they've completely taken over this forest side of the map. Can they even things up at 1 apiece? Fatal, flag in his hands. Gizmo going off right now, 12 and 5 on a 4 spree, but does not have any streaks to assist his flag carrier. Fatal needs to go big, but it looks like it will be Frostyyy who's there to watch the cut for him. Finds the kills necessary. And it looks like along with finding those 2 kills, he found 2 prior to that. And is on a cheeky little 4 spree. 9 streak, now making a 10 streak in total here at the end of this half from Mazer. And really, if you're in their position, stay alive. You do not want to give away what could be streaks heading in toward this next half. You see Frostyyy going for the last-second Dolphin Dive. They want to go for the flag run. It looks like it will be Vicious to try to silence this. And can they find the kills necessary? They will do exactly that. I believe Frostyyy doesn't earn any streaks, and neither does Gizmo, man. That's going to be so frustrating. I don't believe that Frostyyy earned those streaks. And granted, like, I totally understand trying to go for a relay at that time. They had the momentum at their side. I think there was like maybe 2 or 3 down. Vicious goes big in the back of the map. But I mean, generally, you're kind of like the VIP on the map for that time. You can't really afford to be dropping in scenarios like that. So yeah, I don't believe any players actually have streaks. Yeah, no one has streaks heading in toward our next half. So with that, pretty much an even game from at which we started. Just another 5 minutes added toward the clock, as it looks like a fight's going down through mid-map early. Both teams, though, like I said, continue to show that aggression. It's a matter of both teams trying to make their presence be felt. It's been Vex, for the most part, kind of dominating more. I'd say as far as the possession is considered, who's kind of been more on the opposite team's base. It's definitely been Vex more of the time, but when it matters, Mazer, of course, were able to score a flag in the end, thankfully to Fatal's nice little run. Of course, like I said, we kind of built on the streak that GloFrostyyy was on. And speaking of GloFrostyyy, and even Zaptius as well, I've been very proud watching these guys play, kind of going from more search and destroy minded, even playing, you know, back in Ghost heading into World War II. And for the most part, in a lot of our search and destroy tournaments, they've made a great transition into the Respawn game and defend themselves in a very talented team like Mazer, who obviously had a very solid performance at CWL Atlanta as well, doing it not just online, but in LAN play as well. But speaking of Zaptius, a 4 spree along with the return, looking pretty good to earn some streaks. We talked about how Frosty was just so close, but didn't manage to earn them. Now his teammate Zaptius, his kind of duo so far throughout World War II, saying, "It's all right, buddy. I might earn the streaks for us." Like I said, 25 points off, and he realizes how important that these remaining kills are. This challenge versus JetLi, as he's going to have some assistance, maybe even a bait coming through from Vinny. Just trying to weaken him as much as possible. It looks like Vinny does find the kill. No assistance actually coming in from Zaptius there, so at least I don't believe there was an assist there coming in, but take a look at those numbers. 7 streak. For Mazer, last time we saw them go on a team streak like this, they managed to score a flag home. You see 2 players focusing themselves on either side of the map. Once they find a kill, if they can find an early kind of break, you're going to see both sides of those red arrows start to progress forward. As we kind of see ourselves at a quick little stalemate. It's kind of like we're in Search and Destroy, or even TDM. Kills mean everything, and just like that, the red arrows should start to at least make their presence known. But Zaptius has actually earned the streaks off of that kill. Here comes the fighter pilot, and Vex should start to scatter. Finding 1, 3 go down in total. JetLi needs to be the savior, and he happens to be the one man in the back of the map. Finds 1, finds 2. Can he find the 3rd onto Frosty? Getting shots tagged in the side. Will be able to stay alive for the time being. Can he find Zaptius is the question. Yes, finds him. Frosty, though, is still on the run, and the streaks come through to try to silence anyone they can. They actually don't spot Brack and Vicious. For some reason, the streaks don't go for them. Why do they not go for the man who has the flag on the opposite end? I have no idea. And so just like that, both flags in the base for either team. The streaks came through from Zaptius, but he wasn't able to shut down the offensive play coming in from Brack & Co. on the side of X Gaming. And I don't believe that Zaptius has any streaks. Yeah, no, Zaptius has no streaks to work with now, so Brack can kind of sit pretty in the back of the base. Definitely having the more preferred base of the two, at least when it comes in general play. And just like that, Hitman able to drop 2 down. JetLi finds the 3rd, and they know exactly where he's going to be positioned at. Just in this kind of back bunker spawn. Goes for the rush, and Hitman's able to find it. Can he get the return is the thing? No, isn't able to go for the dolphin dive, and that is absolutely heartbreaking. Cannot go for the dolphin dive, and just like that, we are back where we started. A minute left before we could see some potential overtime come through. And it's all about who can kind of catch the enemy off guard, who can get behind enemy lines, make the sneak play. Score flag home, and just like that, Fatal has to go big for his squad mate. He cannot find it. Zaptius is the last alive, and just like that, flag returned, and there it is. Brack & Co. from the side of Vex score a flag through, and they are not stopping any time. Hitman, who was just on the flag capture, is now going for the relay. The streaks come through. Vicious takes out 1, and this could be the nail in the coffin. 3 players, though, making the rush. If they can silence this, that would be big, but Vicious comes through with some streaks of his own, and just like that, Vex, my word, they managed to make it happen, going big in another scenario versus the side of Mazer, as they have been dueling in weeks after weeks. And still, it is the guys from Vex who get the last laugh. insane stuff, man, to say the least. I thought it was honestly going to see some overtime, or maybe that Mazer could see a little bit of an upset when it came down to Hitman, who just couldn't go for the dolphin dive. It was like when you're playing Call of Duty and you have that little bit of a moment where like your dolphin dive doesn't work because you're kind of just ended your sprint, and it's like, okay, I really need to rush forward. Can I make it around the corner? And you're walking like, you know, as slow as you possibly can. Thought it might have been done there, but the big plays, the kind of overall combination of Vex getting kills in quick succession. I think they shut down Gizmo, who was kind of the last line of defense for Frosty. And in the end, like I said, it will be Vex Gaming who walks away with the victory here, scoring 2 flags, of course, here in round number 2 to take this one in total 3-1, and in the series, rather, 2-1. So Vex, they found themselves in the finals for tonight's tournament. To no one's surprise, I think it's fair to say, but I think it could be one to bring up the fact that, you know, they do have a very close series versus Mazer. Question being, how does Hydra face off against a team like this? I can't remember the last time that both these teams have faced off against one another. I know it's happened in the past, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be said Vex, no matter who they're playing, I think it's fair to say, to a certain point, are going to be the favorites. They've won the last 3 tournaments in a row in this exact same category, winning variants, $200, $300 variants. They're on a tear right now. Can they make the 4-peat happen is the question. Can they continue to dominate our Thursday night tournaments? Is anyone going to come here and silence these guys? I need like a pro team, or I need like, I don't know, like FaZe Clan or something like that to leave Birmingham, come here and play against Vex and see if they can silence these guys from going on this streak, because this is pretty crazy to see. I don't think I've ever seen a team win kind of online tournaments like this 4 times in a row. 3-peats have happened. 2, of course, have happened as well. But I'm not sure if I've seen 4, if not 5, ever happen before. So pretty insane stuff that Vex is obviously doing here on UMG Gaming. But still, though, I think it's something to be said that we obviously get to witness the guys from Hydra play again. It's going to be a very tall task for them. Granted, they did face off against a very solid kind of come-up team like JFFJ, kind of a group of guys who I don't think are a solidified roster, but maybe kind of recently came together. They took down Human Jesus, Neod, Equipment, Scoliosis. Very solid team as well. And also, they've added a new player toward their lineup in Neon in place of Neod, and ended up getting their revenge versus him, like I said, in their round 1 match. But let's go take a look at our bracket to see exactly, maybe see where both teams are kind of coming from. Who's faced off maybe against the more difficult squads. Starting first here with Vex Gaming, managed to take down In Control, actually in a 2-1 fashion. So seeing some CTFs clutching up in that game mode is what I'm expected to see them do. They're very good at CTF and can be very dominant in that. Also, of course, just took down Mazer, who, in my opinion, probably the second best team in this tournament, just behind Vex. And also, take a look there at Hydra Gaming, who find themselves in the finals as well. Starting down Orgless, of course, reported as a 1-0. Not sure of the official score line, but took down a very solid team in Orgless. Of course, I've been kind of talking about those guys throughout the night. I think they definitely could have been a team who made it to the finals, if not the semifinals. Of course, Tiny, Juju, Trix, and OOG, the legend. Unfortunately, they obviously end up getting jumped to Hydra. And Hydra, of course, also later goes on in their semifinals to take down Immortal Kings, who we got to watch play a little bit earlier. Not full of a whole lot of known players for the most part. So I think it's fair to say both teams have kind of faced off against very strong squads. Vex has kind of faced off against Mazer, who to me, like I said, is the second best team in the game. So I think they have maybe their shots are a little bit more on point for the time, playing against the team most recently, and obviously versus the more talented of the two between Mortal Kings and them. So one thing, though, that I think needs to be said, and I'm going to be saying this a lot when we obviously load in for our finals, when it comes into Hydra, the major problem they have had, and without question, is in Search and Destroy. If you lose the hardpoint versus Vex, which is very possible, right? Very, very possible. You lose the hardpoint versus Vex. Vex very good at Search and Destroy. They've taken down Mazer in back-to-back weeks in this game mode. Of course, a team who's won 3 tournaments in a row like this have got to be good at just about everything, which they are. They're going to be good at Search and Destroy. They're going to be good at hardpoint. They're going to be good at CTF. So, to me, if Hydra wants to win this series, they have to at least win the first hardpoint, because it is just not looking good for them whatsoever in the rest.